Hello everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to our course, the Introduction to Communication Science. In our fourth meeting today, we will discuss about the levels of communication. So after you learn about the definition and then characteristic and our previous material elements of communication, we will start to get into the material that I would say this is the one of core material in our science. So let's get started. First of all, what is the meaning of communications levels? Well, if you imagine that the science of communications like a circle, then the circle is divided into 5 parts. The division is called a level. So that level of communication is a category. Well, what is the distribution based on? According to the West and Turner, the level are categories based on several things like number of people, level of space, and then the goals, the people involved, and then feedback rate, and then the last thing is channel used. But I think that the most important things is based on communication goals. As you can see on your screen, I have several pictures in here. The image represents each level. So yeah, we have 5 levels. At a glance, the number of the people involved in the first picture and then the second picture, it makes that 2 levels is different. But don't get stuck. You have to look at the points that have been explained by the West and Turner earlier. So this category is based not only on one factor, but several things. As I mentioned earlier, we have 5 levels of communication. So yeah, we have 5 materials today. For the first is intrapersonal communication level. And then the second level is interpersonal communication. The third level is group communication. And then the fourth level is organization communication. And then the last level is mass communication. The order of levels in here is not random, but based on several things that West and Turner previously explained. Actually, we can imagine that the order here is like a triangle. Yeah, this is the bad triangle, but that's okay. The intrapersonal communication is the level that is at the top of this triangle. So it means that the intrapersonal communication have the smallest number of people and then the smallest space and then the simplest communication purposes or communication goals. On the other hand, the mass communication in here is the most broad-ranging levels. So it involves the most people. Automatically, it is the most complex level. The first level is intrapersonal communication. This is the simplest level because it only involves one person. So the communicators and the communicant are one person. Usually, this intrapersonal study is related to the psychological aspect of someone. So what event are includes in this level? For example, when you are thinking, daydreaming, learning something, or maybe when you're making a decision. So you could say that when you talk to yourself, it means that you are doing intrapersonal communication. The second level is interpersonal communication. This is the communication that involving 2 or 3 people. So if you have a communication between maybe 10 or 12 person, automatically it's not included in interpersonal communication. The keyword on this level is relationship. So at this level, people communicate because they want to create relationship, or maybe maintaining a relationship, or maybe when trying to resolve conflicts in a relationship. There are several types of relationship. For the first is friend, and then family relationship, and then maybe romantic relationship. So for example, if you are in the same class with someone, you are doing an introduction, right? Like maybe you ask the name, maybe you ask where he or she come from or something. After the introduction, you felt that you are interested with this person, so you want maybe making some relationship, like maybe you want to be friends or have a romantic relationship. Finally, you communicate further, talk about something, like maybe you talk about the courses, and then maybe you talk about your hobby or something. So what you do is the interpersonal communication. Why? Because you are making a friendship. The third level is group communication level. In this level, it can involving 3 or more people. These 3 or more people wants to achieve a common goals. So this is the differences between the interpersonal communication and group communication. If interpersonal communication levels want to make a relationship, so the group communications level want to achieve the common goals. The closest example of this level is your class. For example, international class of Introduction to Communication Science. In this class, you have a common goals, right? You want to learn about the introduction to communication science. If the goals is achieved, for example, after this course is finished, the group will disband. The group will be formed again when you have the next course. It could be that the group members change. In a group communication, there is no structure and hierarchy. But the group communication has a role. For example, the class leaders. The class leaders is not a student who has the higher rights and authority than the other student. He or she is only a role to facilitate communication with another or maybe the outsider of your class. For example, when your class wants to communicate with the lecturer or maybe another classes, it doesn't mean that the class leader will have the higher score than the other, or maybe may not do the course assessments. The group communication have 3 types. For the first is learning group, and then the second is play group, and then the third is problem solving group. So if the example is your class, automatically it includes in the learning groups. The next level is organization communication. Organization communication is a level that involving structure and hierarchy to communicate. This is the difference between the organization and the group communication. If the group communication only have a role, for example, the class leader, and then the organization communication have the structure and hierarchy. Structure means that the division of the task and authority that are different but interdependent. And then the hierarchy, it means that the top and the bottom position in the structure. So the organization have a person who has a higher rights and authority than the other member. For example, the leader of organization. there is a lot of type of organization. Maybe in a campus you have a student organization, maybe campus itself, or when we want to the wider example, for example, is the government. The last level is the level of mass communication. This is a level that has the characteristic of using technology to convey messages to the communicant widely. In mass communication, the communicator elements is organization. So in mass communication, there is definitely organization communication. Actually, in organization communication, there is definitely group communication and so on, up to the other of intrapersonal communication. The type of the mass communication includes the newspaper and then television, movie, radio, magazine, and then sound recording and the others. So this is the resume of the communication goals or communication purposes of communication levels. This is the goals of intrapersonal communication, and then this is the goals of interpersonal communication, and then this is the goals of group communication, and then this is the goals of organization communication, and then the last is mass communication goals. You can use the points here to make sure that the event of communication includes in which level. For example, if you see maybe two people communicating in a campus area, at the first glance, it can be seen that it is a interpersonal communication, right? Even though it could not be. For example, when the two people are the leader of the Himacom organization, and then the second person is the leader of another organization. They're talking about the work program together. Then it's not an interpersonal communication, but organization communication. Why? Because the two people, the leader of Himacom and then the leader of another organization, it's not communicate to build the relationship, but they communicate to make some the organization goals and using a structure. So if you want to identify the event of communication, please make sure what is the goals of communication, because the number of the people involving is not the only one categories to identify the level of communication. Yeah, lastly, you can read the explanation here by yourself, but I want to emphasize that we know that communication have a 5 level, right? So, as a communication student, I highly recommend you to try communicating at the various level that have been mentioned earlier. Moreover, as a student, you have many opportunities at least to go communicating in organization communication level. I guarantee you, your communication skill will develop as you get involved at the communication level. So yeah, that's all my material today. If there's anything unclear, you can ask me maybe in a group WhatsApp, or maybe you can ask me in open learning. So this is the end of our chapter today. So thank you and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See ya.